So let's start over. I've already sworn everybody's under oath. Let's keep that in mind. This is your first appearance before the Magistrate Court of Clayton County. My name is Judge Bando. I'm not here to take a plea or conduct a trial in your case. As you see, there's nobody here except you all and myself and the deputies. I'm here to let you know what your rights are. So you have a right to remain silent. You have a right to the presumption of innocence. You have a right to a speedy and public trial. You have the right to have witnesses to come and testify on your behalf. You have the right to see, hear, and question witnesses who are called to testify against you. You have a right to testify on your own behalf and to offer evidence in your own defense. Some of you will have unrestricted bonds. What that means is you'll be able to post your bond if you have a bond set through going through a bonding company, which they'll take about 15% of the total bond. So if your bond is $1,000, that means you would have to pay the bonding company $150 to secure your release. You can also use a property bond. If you use a property bond, that property has to have 3 times the amount of equity in the property to secure your release. So that means if your bond, again, is $1,000, for example, the property would have to have $3,000 worth of equity in it in order to use it to secure your release. And the third option is you can always just post the cash directly to the jail. The amount, so if your bond is $1,000, you will post a whole $1,000 bond to the jail in cash. When the case is over, that money would be returned to you, minus some administrative fees. Some of you will have special conditions placed on your bond as a condition of your release. Those conditions will prohibit you from having contact with a certain person or returning to a certain location. If you violate the court's order and you have contact with a person I've asked you not to have contact with, or you go back to a location that I've asked you not to return to as a condition of your bond could be revoked, which would mean you would have to stay in jail till your trial date in your case. And you could also face an additional felony charge of aggravated stalking, in which you also would not be entitled to a bond. You all are going to have to make a decision as to whether or not you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or if you would like to waive your right to your preliminary hearing and proceed to the next stage of your case. What a preliminary hearing is an opportunity for you to have the state prove that it is probable that you committed the crimes as alleged. That's a low burden. All the state would have to prove is that it's probable. To help you make that decision, I can let you know if you decided you would like to keep your preliminary hearing date. If you are charged with a felony, your preliminary hearing date would be on November the 17th. If you are charged with a misdemeanor, the next time you would see a judge would be November the 16th. So misdemeanors, your next court date, if you decided you wanted to keep your preliminary hearing, would be November the 16th. And if you're charged with a felony, it would be November the 17th. You can always keep your preliminary hearing. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to post your bond. In fact, if you do post your bond before the preliminary hearing date, you will not come back to court on that date. You will get notice in the mail at whatever address you told the court to send your mail to. And that's where they will let you know your next court date. So if you make bond, you don't have to come back to court on those dates. You can always waive your preliminary hearing at a later date. You can always change your mind. But once you waive it, you can't take it back. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started. The first person I have is Kayla Alexander.
Miss Alexander, come on.
Miss Alexander, you've been charged with battery. Your bond is $2,000. As a condition of your bond, you can't have any contact with Miracle Smith. How do you know Miss Smith? I see she's here with you today. Are you all related? Are you friends, neighbors? What's the nature of the relationship?
Friends.
Okay. Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing or do you want to waive it?
Sorry, can you explain what waiving it would mean again?
That means your case would move on to the state court of Clayton County and you wouldn't have the court date on November the 16th. They would mail you notice when to come back to court.
Okay, waive it.
All right, they're going to give you a waiver form. When you fill it out, make sure I can understand your handwriting so that I know it belongs to you. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any other questions?
No.
All right, thank you.
Fairman?
I have Mecca Allah Fairman. Ms. Allah Fairman, you've been charged with battery. That bond is $2,000. The cruelty to children charge has been dismissed because the officer didn't put the required information in the warrantless arrest affidavit. So you have a special condition that you can't have any contact with Mr. Anye Foro. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing?
No, ma'am.
You want to waive it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Complete the waiver form. Make sure I can understand your handwriting. And based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. I have Miss Allah Cobb.
Yes, ma'am. That was my mom you just spoke to. That lipstick is nice on you.
All right. You've been charged with battery, family violence. That bond is $2,000. I dismissed for the same reasons, the cruelty to children, because the officer didn't put the required information, and you have obstruction, which is $1,000. So your total bond is $3,000. So I had put on here that you couldn't have contact with, now that I noticed, your mother. So you all was gonna have, when you get your attorney, they need to change it. So, because they'll both talk, your lawyers and everybody will talk, then they can change their conditions. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing or did you want to waive it?
I would like to waive it.
Okay. And I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
And that lip too. Have a good day.
All right. Miss Barbara. Miss Barbara, you've been charged with giving a false name. Your bond is $1,000. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing or did you want to waive it?
Waive it today.
Okay. I've appointed an attorney to represent you based on your application. Did you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Make sure I can understand that waiver with your handwriting, okay? All right, Ms. Smith. So you've been charged with battery as well. Your bond is $2,000. You can't have any contact with Kayla Alexander. Do you understand that? Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing or do you want to waive it?
Waive it.
All right. When you fill out the waiver form, make sure I can understand your handwriting so that I know it belongs to you. And I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions? All right. Okay. Thank you.
You got sign away.
Ms. Tate,
Oh,
you're 17, is that right? And who do you live with?
I'm in a group home.
Okay. Your bond for criminal trespass, damage to property is $500. Disorderly conduct is $500. So your total bond is $1,000. Who's going to come bond you out?
I'm not sure.
Have you spoken to anyone?
I spoke with my mom, but it would have to be up to my caseworker because she has legal custody over me.
So has your mother spoke to your caseworker?
I'm not sure. I have to give her a call.
Oh, are you in school?
No.
Why not?
Because they're setting me up to get my GED.
You need to make sure you take care of business. You understand that? I hope I don't ever want to see you come back here again. Are we clear about that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You want to waive your hearing or did you want to keep your preliminary hearing?
Waive it.
All right. Fill out the paperwork. Make sure I can understand your handwriting so I know the form belongs to you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Take care.
good day.
Are you Mr. Barber? All right. Montardrevius Barber. All right, Mr. Barber, you've been charged with reckless driving. That bond is $2,000. Improper passing is $1,000. No insurance is $1,000. Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon is $5,000. Your total bond is $9,000. Would you like to keep your preliminary hearing or did you want to waive it?
What you mean by that?
So we're gonna keep it. You can always waive it later. Your court date is going to be on the 17th. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any other questions?
Yes, I will.
Do you understand? Do you understand what a waiver is?
No, ma'am.
Then I'm not gonna let you waive it because you don't understand what you're doing. You can always waive it after you talk to an attorney, okay?
Okay.
All right, take care.
Next person up.
No question.
All right, Mr. Barron.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Barron, you've been charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault and 2 counts of terroristic threats. Your bonds have been denied. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing?
They deny my bond?
That's correct, sir. Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing? Your preliminary hearing date is going to be on November the 17th. Your bond hearing is going to be on November the 19th. I've appointed an attorney to represent you, sir. Take care.
Asking John. You good? Anybody back inside? We have one, right? We have to now. Gentlemen.
All right, are you Mr. Blunt Dinkins?
No, ma'am. Butler.
All right. Mr. Butler, you've been charged with driving on a suspended license. Your bond is $1,500. Did you want to waive or keep your preliminary hearing?
I'd like to waive it, please.
All right. When you complete the waiver form, make sure I can understand your handwriting. Based on your application, you made too much money for a court-appointed attorney.
I just lost sound. Can't hear you.
Make sure you sign the waiver form. Based on your income listed, you make too much money for a court-appointed attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, Mr. Blunt Dinkins, you've been charged with 4 counts of violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. Your bond on each one of those is $3,000. You've also been charged with possession or use of drug-related objects. That bond is $1,000. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime is $5,000. And identity fraud is $2,000. So your total bond is $20,000. You want to keep your preliminary hearing, or would you like to waive it? Make sure when you fill out the waiver form, I can understand your handwriting, so I know that the form belongs to you. Do you have any questions?
No,
All right, I appointed an attorney to represent you. All right, are you Mr. Chavis?
Hey,
You said yes? Okay. You've been charged with criminal damage in the 2nd degree. Your bond is $2,000. As a condition of your bond, you can't have any contact with G. Von Ho, and you cannot go back to 5657 Riverdale Road in Atlanta, Georgia. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or would you like to waive it?
What waiver me?
All right. So when you don't understand it, I'm going to let you keep it so you can speak with an attorney who can discuss it further with you. You can always waive it at a later date. Your preliminary hearing is going to be on November the 17th. And do you have an attorney or you don't have an attorney?
I don't have it, sir.
Okay. I've appointed one to represent you, sir. Do you have any other questions? All right. Thank you, sir. Are you Mr. Davis? All right, Mr. Davis, you've been charged with improper lane change. That bond is $500. Driving under the influence is $2,000. Violation of the seatbelt law is $500. Driving with an expired or invalid tag is $500. You have 2 counts of open container violations, which is $500 on each count. Possession of marijuana is $1,500. And drug-related objects use or possession is $1,000. So your total bond is $7,000. You want to keep your preliminary hearing, or would you like to waive it?
I'll waive it.
All right. When you complete that waiver form, make sure that I can understand your handwriting. And I've appointed an attorney to represent you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, are you Mr. Ellis?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Ellis, you've been charged with brake light signal. That bond is 500. Tenant window violation is 500. Seatbelt law is 500. You also have 4 counts of violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act, and it's 3,000 on each count. You have drug-related objects, use of possession, 1,000. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime is 1,000. And possession of a firearm by a felon is 5,000. Your total bond is $20,500. Would you like to keep your preliminary hearing, or did you want to waive it?
Keep it.
It's going to be on November the 17th. I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, are you Mr. Imbu A. Lele?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you've been charged with improper lane change. That bond is 500. Violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act is 1,000. Your total bond is $1,500. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or did you want to waive it?
I'll waive it.
All right, when you fill out the waiver form, make sure I can understand your handwriting. Based on your application, you make too much money, so you have to hire your own attorney. Do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. Are you Mr. Garrett? Mr. Garrett, you've been charged with driving on a suspended or revoked license. That bond is $1,500. Having no license on person is $500. Red light violation is $500. And possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce is $1,500. So your total bond is $4,000. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or did you want to waive it?
Waive it.
I didn't hear you.
Waive it.
Okay. When you fill the waiver form, make sure I can understand your handwriting so I know the form belongs to you. I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you. Are you Mr. Hoskins?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Hoskins, you've been charged with driving under the influence. Your bond is $7,000. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or did you want to waive it?
Keep.
It's going to be on November the 16th. Based on your application, you make too much money, you have to hire your own attorney. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you. Are you Mr. Howell?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Howell, you've been charged with speeding. That bond is $500. DUI is $4,000. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or did you want to waive it?
I keep it.
I didn't hear you.
I keep it.
All right. It's going to be on November the 16th. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Citizen?
Are you Mr. Jacquez?
Yes.
You've been charged with improper lane change. That bond is $500. Driving on a suspended license is $1,500. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing, or do you want to waive it?
Keep it.
All right. It'll be on November the 16th. Based on your application, you'll have to hire your own attorney. You make too much money to qualify for a court-appointed attorney. Do you have any questions?
What if I paid my bond already?
Then you'll be released sometime today.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Are you Mr. Kelly?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kelly, you've been charged with simple battery. That bond is 10,000. Criminal damage in the second degree is 10,000. I dismissed the violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act because the officer didn't put the correct information in the warrant to sustain the charge. So your total bond is $20,000. As a condition of it, you cannot have any contact with Impaba Koma Lawson, and you cannot go back to 5716 Highway 85 in Forest Park, Georgia. Do you understand that, sir?
Yeah,
Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing or do you want to waive?
I want to keep it.
All right, it's going to be on November the 17th. Based on your application, I appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
Are those misdemeanors or felonies, man?
The battery is a misdemeanor and the criminal damage in the second degree is a felony because of the amount of the item.
And what was the damage to? I didn't damage anything.
The allegation is that you threw the victim's iPhone 12 across the room, causing it to break. The value of the phone is $1,200 to replace. So that's a felony amount damage, allegation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right. Are you Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mitchell, you've been charged with possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce. Your bond is $1,500. Drug-related objects is $500. The red light violation is $500. So your total bond is $2,500. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing or did you want to waive it?
Wait,
All right. Complete the waiver form. Make sure I can understand your handwriting. I've appointed an attorney to represent you based on your application. Do you have any questions?
no, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. You, Mr. Powell,
Yes, ma'am.
you've been charged with having no license. Your bond is $1,000. Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing or do you want to waive it? You said keep it?
Yeah.
All right. It's going to be on the 16th of November. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Are you Mr. Prather?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You've been charged with improper lane change. That bond is $500. Driving under the influence is $5,000. So your total bond is $5,500. Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing or would you like to waive it?
Keep it.
All right. It'll be on the 16th of November. How much money do you make average a month? You didn't list anything on your form.
I know me, it's temporary. It's on there.
I didn't hear you.
I say it's like a temporary job doing a temp service, so it's not.
So what's the, I just need an average.
Really, it's something like $17 an hour. I mean, I don't know quite how much, probably like no more about.
You work 40 hours a week?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Based on this information, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Are you Mr. Thomas? Mr. Thomas, you've been charged with battery. That bond is $5,000. Simple assault is $2,000. As a condition of your bond, you cannot have any contact with Olivia Bryant. You can't go back to 41 Eatonton Square in Jonesboro, Georgia. If you have any personal belongings there, you can go back with the sheriffs to go get undisputed personal property 10 days from your release. Do you understand the conditions of the bond?
Yes, ma'am. What? It's
All right. Do you want to keep, you said what?
What's it on? Like, what's it all together?
7,000. Do you want to keep your preliminary hearing or you want to waive it? All right. When you fill out the form, make sure I can understand your handwriting so I know it belongs to you. I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Are you Mr. Thorpe?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Thorpe, you've been charged with 4 counts of violation of the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. Their bond is $3,000 on each one of those counts, $1,000 on drug-related objects. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime is $1,000. Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon is $5,000. So your total bond is $19,000. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing or did you want to waive it?
Keep it.
All right. It will be on November the 17th. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
I will.
Another one? You want to keep that for you? You get a five. Always keep it at 5.
All right. You, Mr. Washington?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Washington, you've been charged with 4 counts of violation of Georgia Controlled Substance Act. It's $3,000 on each one of those counts. And use of possession of drug-related objects is $1,000. And possession of a firearm during the commission of a crime is $5,000. Your total bond is $18,000. Did you want to keep your preliminary hearing or did you want to waive?
I want to keep it.
All right. It'll be on November the 17th. Based on your application, I've appointed an attorney to represent you. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. All right. Are you John Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Williams, you were charged with being a fugitive from justice. The officer didn't allege anything, any probable cause whatsoever, so I can't keep the charge. So this charge against you will be dismissed. I don't know if the state that you had a warrant out is going to come pick you up or not, but we can't hold you here. So that's it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mom.
Didn't give him that charge.
Are you Mr. Wilson?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wilson, they didn't forward me any warrants on your case. So your case is going to be continued for tomorrow. If they don't have the warrants tomorrow, then your case will be dismissed. So you'll have to come back to court tomorrow because the warrants didn't make it with the paperwork for today.
I have a warrant.
Yeah, for your warrantless arrest for theft by taking criminal trespass. What the officer arrested you for. He didn't submit the paperwork and the paperwork didn't make it to me today. So your case has to be continued tomorrow.
I don't understand.
There's no paper. I don't have the warrant information. They have 48 hours to give me the information. So it's not been 48 hours. So if it's not there, if it don't make the 48 hours tomorrow, then you'll be released from custody.
So I don't have to come to court tomorrow?
No. You'll come to court tomorrow, but if the judge tomorrow, I'm not working tomorrow, so it won't be me. But on the paperwork, it's going to indicate that we didn't have the warrantless arrest affidavits. So the officer has 48 hours to get those to us. So if the judge doesn't have it tomorrow, then he can't hold you here. He has to release you.
Well, yes, everybody, but I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
The gentleman that was a fugitive from justice, does he have to sign any waiver or anything? Or he just
No, I signed the order, so he didn't have to sign anything.
beautiful? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Enjoy the game, even though it's gonna be a loss.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. I'm coming straight from here. You see all this? I got my shirt on and everything. All right.
Enjoy,
Take care.
We're now streaming live on YouTube. The parties have announced ready to proceed in the hearing this morning, their preliminary hearing this morning. On the record, we have Xavius Bernard Bevines, warrant number 2021WA14577 and warrant number 2021WA14578. Present for the state via Zoom, we have Ms. Audrey Lewis. The defendant is presently incarcerated in the Clayton County Jail. He is represented this morning by Mr. Shannon Render. Ms. Lewis, you may proceed with your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Mustafa, we'll need you to reveal your camera, please. Okay, good morning, sir. Can you say something again? I just want to make sure your sound is
Good morning.
okay. May have to speak up just a little bit so that the court reporter can catch it. And just so that all parties can hear the testimony. All right, sir, will you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony that you shall provide to the court today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yes.
Okay. State your name for the record, please.
Jamal Mustafa,
Okay, and where do you currently work?
Clayton County Police Department.
And were you working at the Clayton County Police Department on August 11th of 2021?
I was.
And were you involved with an investigation of Xavier's Bivens or Bivines?
I think it's Bivens, but yes, I was.
Okay. You see that individual on the Zoom call today?
Yes.
Okay. Can you identify him by what he's wearing?
He's wearing a mask, red shirt.
Okay. And Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
So reflected.
Thank you, Your Honor. That there was an investigation involving him. How did you come to be involved in that investigation?
You're breaking up.
I'm sorry. How did you come to be involved in the investigation of Mr. Bivens?
I was dispatched to 777 Hunters Ridge, apartments for domestic.
Okay, and where is that location? What state, county and state?
Georgia, Clayton County, Georgia.
Okay. And once you arrived at that location, did you make contact with Sabrina McNeil?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you also make contact with the defendant?
He was there. The other officer made contact with him. We separated them to interview him.
Okay, but you had the occasion to observe him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was there anyone else that you were able to speak to?
The 17-year-old, what's her name? Diamond.
Okay. When you spoke, you advised that you were the one to speak with Miss McNeil.
Yes.
Okay. Can you advise what she told you?
Basically, when I got there, she was outside with the other children. She really didn't want to interview. She just told me that she wanted him to leave. And when I asked her what happened, she turned to him and said, "Well, if I tell them what happened, you're going to go to jail." So
when you say she turned to him and made that statement, who are you speaking?
She turned to Xavier. Is his name Xavier?
Okay. She turned to him when you asked her what happened and said what?
That if she really told me what happened, that he would end up going to jail. But she didn't tell me what happened. She just told me that she wanted him to leave.
Okay. Did you and so in response to that, were you able to assist her with that request or?
Well, we were initially trying to figure out what happened, why they called us, and I was trying to figure out what she was talking about as far as if she really told me the truth. I just wanted her to tell me what was going on. And I told them, I said, maybe we can work with you if you just let me know what's going on. But she never told me what was going on. She just told me that they were arguing. She picked them up from work. They were arguing about him being on the internet talking to women.
Okay. I guess I just want to reiterate my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You advised that she requested that she wanted him to leave. Were you able to assist her with that?
For him to leave?
Yes.
No, not until we found out what happened.
Okay. So, did you advise her that you were not able to make him leave?
Yes, I told her that she had to evict him. She actually had paperwork that she started the eviction process.
Okay. So, based on that, did you determine whether he lived there? I guess that was.
He said he lived there, and she said he lived there.
Okay. And so you said that she had actually started some paperwork.
Yes.
Okay. But at the time, what had that paperwork been completed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You advised that there were 3, or I guess other children. How many children were there total?
3. Hold on. 3.
Okay. Were you able to ascertain whether they were under the age of 18?
Yes. All of them under the age of 18.
Now, I know that you mentioned that you spoke with a 17-year-old.
Yes.
Is she one of the minors?
Yes, she's 17 though. She's not.
I'm sorry.
I said she's 17.
Okay. And so what was her name?
Diamond.
Okay. Were you able to speak to Diamond?
Yes.
Okay. And what did Diamond offer by way of what happened?
She told me that her mother and her boyfriend were arguing about him being on the internet with females, and that he was pushing her in the face and pointing her in the face, and that he kicked in the bedroom door.
Okay. So let's take it step by step.
Okay.
You said she was pushing her. Who is her?
I'm sorry. She was pushing Sabrina McNeil. He was pushing Sabrina McNeil. I'm sorry.
And you said something about pointing or putting something in her face. I'm sorry. Can you clarify?
So he was pushing her and pointing in her face.
Okay. And while this was happening, Diamond advised whether or not Miss McNeil did anything.
No, she didn't. She said she didn't do anything.
Okay. Did she ever attempt to get away from him?
She said she was walking away from him around the house.
Okay. And when you say she, are you referring to Diamond or Miss McNeil?
Miss McNeil.
Okay. And this was during the altercation?
Yes.
And did Diamond advise to call the police?
I think it was the son. I think the mother told the son to call the police.
Okay. Are you certain of that, or would you need to refresh your recollection?
Hold on, let me look at my report.
Oh, hold on. Would it help you to look at your report to refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that you would have learned during the course of your investigation on August 11th?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you make your report at the time that your recollection was fresh?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Please review your report and let me know when your recollection has been refreshed.
All right. Yeah, she told the son to call the police.
Okay.
Sabrina told the son to call the police.
Okay. And who advised you of that?
All the juveniles, actually, but Diamond told me that.
Okay. And then once the police were called, did they remain inside?
Did who remain inside?
Diamond, Miss McNeil, and the other children.
That I'm not sure. I know when we arrived, everybody was outside.
Okay. Would it help for you to refresh your recollection by reviewing your report?
If they went outside after they called the police,
Yes.
that's not something that I asked. I know I didn't ask that question. I just know when we arrived, all parties were outside.
Okay. So if it's in your report, would that have been something that would have been told to you?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to refresh your recollection by looking at your report?
Okay, let me look at it. Okay. Yes, it's in the report that Diamond advised that they were outside waiting for the police.
Okay. And while they were waiting for the police, did anything else happen?
Can I refer to my report again?
Yes. And why don't you just go ahead and look at it and let me know once your memory has been refreshed.
Okay. Well, at that point, that's when she said that when that Diamond said that Xavier went back into the house, I guess to get his clothes, and then he kicked the bedroom door in.
Okay. Did you make any observations with respect to the door?
Yes, I went inside and saw the bedroom door off the hinges.
Completely removed from the door frame, or just it was still attached but hanging?
It was hanging. I think the first, you have 3 door hinges. The top one and the middle one were off the hinges.
Okay. Did you receive any estimate about how much it would cost to either replace that or the value of the door?
Due to my experience being out there to that complex, those bedroom doors are less than $500.
Okay. Did you attempt to make any observations about whether there were any injuries?
Yes, I did check them for injuries.
Okay. Did you observe any?
No.
Okay. Now, at the point that you were on scene, did you detain the defendant?
Yes.
And why was that?
You said now what? Say that again.
Why was that? Why did you detain him?
Initially, because he was being irate and he wouldn't let us interview the Sabrina. He kept interfering. Well, I'm sorry, not interfering. He kept interrupting me and being very irate. So I placed him in handcuffs and put him inside the car.
Okay. Now, did Diamond complete a written statement?
I think she did.
Okay. Did Miss McNeil want her to?
She didn't say that initially. She told me that I told her I was going to go in the house and talk to the kids, and she said I was more than welcome to.
Okay, but with respect to a written statement?
As far as the other minor children?
Yes. Did she want the children to make a statement?
She told me that she didn't want me to talk to her children, but Diamond was 17 years old.
Understood.
She wasn't a victim.
Understood. I guess my question again is, did she want them to make a written statement?
She didn't want them to make a written statement.
Okay. Did she advise why?
No.
Okay. When Diamond was describing the incident, did she advise where Miss McNeil was pushed?
Yeah, she said it toward her head, face, and everything.
Okay. And did Miss McNeil ever provide a statement? Like, did she ever tell you what happened?
No, she did not tell me what happened.
Okay. Can you just clarify though what she did say about the defendant when you asked her what happened?
She said that she picked him up from work and that they were arguing back and forth about him talking to women on the internet.
Okay. When she turned to him, what did she say?
When she turned to him?
Yes.
I'm not sure I don't recall what she said verbatim.
Okay. I apologize. Can I just have a moment?
Huh?
I apologize, Your Honor. You advised earlier that she turned to him and said something about if she told what happened.
Oh, that part. That was when we first arrived on scene.
Understood. What did she say?
I'm sorry. I apologize. When I asked her,
you previously asked before.
Excuse me?
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time. There's a previously been asked before. This is a restatement of the question from previously.
I am going to overrule your objection. Go ahead, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. Could you advise what she told him with respect to what you were about to answer?
Yes. When I asked her what happened, she immediately turned to him and she said, if I tell them what happened, you're going to go to jail. So I just want you to leave.
Okay. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions of this witness.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Render, you may proceed with your cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, Mr. Mustafa, you said you worked for Clayton County PD. You're post-certified?
Yes.
August 11th, you were working the area 77700 Drive.
You were breaking up. Can you say that again, please?
And on the day in question, at the location 777 Hunters Ridge Drive?
Yes.
All right. And you made contact with Mr. Brandon McNeil?
Yes. Wait, Brandon.
I'm sorry?
What's the name? Your mic is breaking up. What's the name?
McNeil.
Yes, Miss McNeil, yes.
Okay. And you indicated you saw no signs of injury on her period?
No, I didn't see any injuries on her.
Did she indicate that Mr. Bivens put his hands on her at all?
No, she didn't tell me that.
Okay. Who told you that?
Sabrina. I'm sorry. Diamond, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And what did Diamond specifically say to you?
Diamond said that he was pushing, that Xavius was pushing her and pointing at her in her face.
So she didn't just say he was pointing at her. She also said he was pushing her?
Yes.
Do you think that was a hearing incorrectly, or do you know for a fact that's what she said?
No, that's what she told me. I had to play back my camera to listen to it.
Okay. And were you aware that a juvenile, besides Miss Diamond, wrote the statement that she signed her name to?
No, I thought she wrote the statement. The other officer took the statement inside.
Oh, so you didn't see her specific right statement?
No, he brought out statements to me, and I told him that the son initially wrote a report, and I told him that Miss McNeil does not want us to talk to them, so we can't use his report. We can't use his statement.
Understood. Did you observe any of the other doors in the home?
No, just the bedroom door.
So you didn't know that all the doors in the home were broken?
Your Honor, I'm going to object, assume facts, not in evidence. Also, if he's already stated that he has not observed any of the other doors, then any other questions about said doors would not be relevant. So he would not be able to base that on his personal knowledge.
Well, Your Honor, in response, Mr. Mustafa will have to do a thorough investigation to determine whether or not the broken door occurred from the Bivens or whether it was broken doors in the home. So I certainly do relevant to the case at hand.
I'm going to rule your decision, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Rinder, please proceed with the question.
Your Honor, if I just may clarify, so I also made the objection based on facts, not in evidence. If a witness says, I'm not aware of facts, you can't bring in evidence that are not pursuant to testimony or their personal knowledge. I certainly understand him asking the question about whether or not he observed the other doors, but the response was no. So you can't glean any other probative information from the officer about things he testified he did not observe.
I understand that now, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Rinder, if you want to rephrase your question, you can, but
Okay. Mr. Mustafa, so it's your testimony that you did not thoroughly investigate the home. You only looked at one door, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You indicated that Mr. Bivens was interfering with the conversation with Mrs. Sabrina McNeil.
With my interview with her?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and so you had to place Mr. Bivens in the patrol car?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of the discrepancy from the victims and your report?
I don't understand what the discrepancies are.
Were you aware that the case went to internal affairs about the report that was taken?
Am I aware they went to internal affairs?
Yes, the next day.
Yes.
And are you aware of the internal affairs about the investigation you all conducted?
I'm sorry, say that again. Your mic's breaking up.
Are you aware of the they made pursuant to the investigation you all conducted the day prior?
Yes.
Are you aware that it contradicts the police report?
I'm not understanding what contradicts the police report.
Yeah, Ms. Diamond now. Are you aware that they contradict? Do you believe that there can, based upon your professional experience and conduct, do you believe that there could have been some mistakes made in the investigation?
No, I strictly went off my camera.
Strictly off your camera?
Yes.
But basically, off your camera, there was no direct use to Mrs. Diamond.
You keep breaking up. You said there's no direct what now?
Based off of your camera, you indicated that you got all your information from the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just asking, based off of the camera, was there any direct evidence of abuse to Mrs. Sabrina McNeil?
No, just the statements from from Diamond and the other children.
No further questions of this witness.
Mr. Rinder. Ms. Lewis, do you have any readers at this time?
Yes. So Mr. Rinder went and spoke with you about there was, I guess, some subsequent complaint about your investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he also advised you that another juvenile wrote the statement signed by Diamond.
I'm not aware of that. I was aware that she wrote the statement.
Okay, and why did you believe that she wrote the statement?
Officer Mendez brought me the statement and that she signed it.
Okay, and those statement forms, they typically advise people about the penalty of making false reports and perjury.
Yes, they do.
And she's 17.
Yes.
And so did she display any issues with understanding the English language when she spoke with you?
She spoke very good English.
Okay. And you not only, I guess, gave her a written statement, but you had an opportunity to speak with her.
Yes, correction. I did not give her the statement. I asked the other officer to go in and give her the statement after she told me what happened.
Okay. And when she told you what happened, did you tell her what to say?
No.
Okay. And she was able to advise you what you've previously testified to.
Yes.
Okay. And the door that you observed to be hanging about the hinges, which door was that again?
It was a bedroom door.
Okay. And which door was it that Diamond advised was damaged by the defendant kicking in the door?
The entry door, the door to the bedroom.
Okay. And so was your observation consistent with that statement?
Yes.
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions of this witness.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Render, do you have any recross at this time?
No further cross, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Lewis, do you have any other, are you done with this witness at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any other witnesses, Ms. Lewis?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to, I think Mr. Render indicated that he had witnesses.
Yes.
And they're in the same location. Is that correct, Mr. Render? It's on the same floor, I mean.
Yes.
And so, Your Honor, I did request the rule of sequestration. So I know that they're in the same location, but I would ask that they not be in the same area while they're testifying.
Okay.
Understood, Your Honor. I will let that be known now.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. McNeil, could you please raise your right hand? Unmute your screen for me too. Just press on there and there's a mute at the bottom left. It says mute. Okay, you good. You got it.
Okay,
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, please state your name for the record.
Sabrina McNeil.
Okay. Ms. McNeil, on the day in question, all right, let's start from the beginning. Do you know the defendant, Mr. Xavier Bivens?
Yeah, I know it.
Okay, how do you know him?
Mr. Render, I'm sorry, I may have missed it. Did we place her under oath?
Yes. Okay, how do you know Mr. Bivens?
He's my boyfriend.
Okay. And how long has he been your boyfriend?
Render, I'm going to stop for a minute. Ms. McNeil, please, can you stop for a minute? I'm not sure where she's at, but it's kind of hard to understand what she's saying with her mask on. I'm not sure if she's able to bring it down a little bit. I'm not trying to keep you from your health issues, but I can't understand quite clearly what you're saying.
If you can speak up.
Okay.
If you can speak up, or I guess make it however safely speak up so I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Is that better?
Yes. On the day in question, did an argument occur with Mr. Bivens?
Yes.
Did that argument turn physical?
Not once.
Did Mr. Bivens place his hands on you?
No.
What did Mr. Bivens do?
It was just a verbal argument, and and he was getting loud, and I
Did he
asked him.
point?
No.
Okay. Did he break any doors in the house?
No. All of my doors are broken. The house is under construction.
Okay. And so the door, as described in the police report, was already broken beforehand.
Yes.
Okay. Did you make a statement to the officer? Did you make a statement to the officer about Mr. Bivens?
No, and I no, I didn't, and I wasn't asked to.
Okay. Did you allow any of your juvenile children to make statements about Mr. Bivens?
No, I did not. I didn't want any of them to make a statement. It was nothing to make a statement about. It was just an argument, a loud argument.
Okay, and who called the police?
I told my son to call the cops that if he didn't calm down in the next 5 minutes.
Because of the argument.
He continued to be loud. He continued to be loud. And that's when I told my son to just go ahead and call the cops. Because he wasn't on his meds.
Okay. And subsequent to the investigation, did you all write a statement to Internal Affairs?
Yes, we did.
And why did you do that?
The way they treated me, it was instead of the officer Mustafa happy, it was more of him bullying me. He wouldn't allow me in my home. He didn't want to hear anything I had to say because I wasn't talking against Mr. Bivens, which there was nothing to talk against. And when he arrived on the scene, I only asked, why did I call? And I said, because he's a psychiatric patient. He's not on his meds. If this was on a Wednesday, and I said he won't be on his meds until Friday when he go to the doctor, to the psychiatrist.
Did you request Mr. Bivens to be arrested?
No.
Okay. Are you aware
I wanted
of
them
any?
to talk to him and calm him down because he was getting loud. And I asked him, will he agree to leave for a little while until he calmed down?
Are you aware of any statements your daughter, Ms. Diamond McNeil, made?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did she write a statement?
She wrote the statement, but told Mendez several times that she did not want to write the statement because she didn't want to be in black and white because she didn't see anything and she barely heard anything. She was asleep most of the argument.
Okay. She was asleep most of the argument. Okay. And subsequently, you all wrote a statement to Internal Affairs. What did you say in that statement?
I kind of explained the way the behavior that officer.
It seems like we lost her for a second, Your Honor. I believe she had a bad connection. Let me see if we can get her back online.
I'm not sure what happened. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ms. McNeil, but it's breaking up.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it went down for some reason. I put in my word that Mustafa was.
Miss McNeil, you're breaking up. You're breaking up, Miss McNeil. I don't know what location you're in, but it's breaking up. You can try again now, see if it's better.
Okay. What about now?
Okay, that sounds better.
Okay. I told Officer Mustafa, I put in me as if I was the problem because I didn't want Mr. Bivens arrested. I only wanted him help because he was a psychiatric patient.
Slower. Maybe we'll be able to understand you. It's still breaking up.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I stated I wrote in the statement the way Officer Mustafa was treating me and the way he was treating Mr. Bivens, and that I told him that I didn't want my kids to write a statement. There was nothing to write, nothing happened. It was a heated argument that could have turned physical that I thought was going to get physical. So I called for help. And that was, the way they forced my children. Mendez made my son write the statement because Diamond kept saying Mendez made Travell write the statement, the 16-year-old, because Diamond said she didn't see anything and they wanted something so bad to where they made him write out because he was up the longest. And they made Travell write out the statement and told Diamond she had to sign it.
Okay. So the statement was written actually by your son and signed by your daughter.
Yes, that's what Mendez told them to do.
This was told to you directly by the police officer to write it, to have them complete the statement in this way?
They didn't say it to me. They wouldn't let me inside. I couldn't go near the children. They made me stay outside. I couldn't go near my son, any of them. I couldn't even use the bathroom. I couldn't even go in my house for any apparent reason.
So this is the reason for the internal affairs statement?
Yes, because all the children were in the house. Officer Mustafa made all the children go in the house and told me I had to stay outside. I was at the front of my vehicle. Bivens was at the back of my vehicle. We were still close to each other the entire time. And my children told me when I finally got in the house, after everything, they told me, and my niece Diamond kept saying she didn't want to write the statement. She didn't want to be in black and white. And they told her, well, since you're a witness, you got to write something. That's when, so that's the, all the treatment and the bullying that they did when they were there and forcing Diamond and Travell to write the statement.
Understood. No further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Render. Ms. Lewis, do you have any cross for Ms. McNeil?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. McNeil.
Morning.
You did advise one of your children to call the police.
I did. My 16-year-old Travell.
Travell, okay. And is that because of how Mr. Bivens was acting?
He just kept begging my pardon and asking me, because he's usually scared of the cops. So I know if I call the cops, he'll immediately calm down. So he wasn't acting out. He was very calm when he realized the cops were on the way. He was calm. He was quiet.
Now, do you recall testifying on direct examination with Mr. Render advising that you told your son to call the police if Mr. Bivens didn't calm down?
Yes, if he didn't calm down, he was screaming to the top of his voice.
Okay.
And some of the children were still asleep. And I said, if you don't calm down in 5 minutes, and I said, Trey, call the cops if you don't calm down in 5 minutes.
And so he called the cops in 5 minutes.
He called the cops in exactly 5 minutes.
Because Mr. Bivens didn't calm down.
He kept screaming and yelling.
Right. He being Mr. Bivens.
He being Mr. Bivens. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so Mr. Bivens was screaming and yelling, and you believe that was because he was off his meds?
He was on his meds. He had just got out of incarceration. He was on his meds for over a year, but he'd been off on for almost a month too. So he was definitely needing his meds.
So the answer is no, he was not.
No, he wasn't on his meds, no.
Okay.
But he needed to be.
Understood. So you're having a heated exchange. Was this in reference to women on Facebook?
Yes, that is very much true.
Okay.
I did confront him about it, and of course he got upset.
Okay. They say Facebook causes most.
It do. It do.
Okay. So you're in an argument about women on Facebook. He won't calm down. Did you want him to leave?
I wanted him to leave until he calmed down. I mean, technically, of course, I can't put him out because the eviction wasn't completely filed. I filed it through the courts, but it wasn't, we haven't went to court yet. So, of course, I couldn't technically put him out. So I called the cops to see if they could kind of talk to him. And I thought being a psychiatric patient, they're supposed to at least try to talk to him before detainment and all that stuff.
Well, let's not get into that. I'm specifically.
That's why I called. So it wasn't because he was beating on me or hitting me, pushing me, poking me, touching me.
Understood, but you just
Not
testified both on direct and on cross with me. He was irate and wouldn't calm down.
Yes, he was very loud.
And he was not on his meds.
Right.
And you were afraid that it would escalate.
Correctly.
Okay. And so, and you wanted him gone before this because you had a pending eviction that you were trying to serve on him.
Right.
Okay. So, and when the officers arrived, that's what you requested, that they ask him to leave.
Absolutely.
And they told you that they could not ask him to leave because the eviction wasn't completed.
Right. It was still his residence. I even showed them the papers and everything. So.
Okay. And so at some point, did you advise Mr. Bivens that if I tell them what happened, you would go to jail?
I told the officer, Officer Mustafa, I said, I don't want him to go to jail. I just want him to leave.
Okay. So the answer would be yes. You didn't want him to go to jail.
No, I did not want him to go to jail.
And you told Mr. Bivens if you told them what happened that he would go to jail.
Objection, Your Honor. She just asked this question as we asked and answered.
Right, but she didn't answer the question.
I do not recall telling Mr. Bivens that if I tell him what really happened, you're going to go to jail. I mean, clearly, I promise you nothing happened. Not that I mean anything to you all, but nothing happened.
Okay. So, Your Honor, this time I'm going to ask that you instruct Ms. McNeil to be responsive to the questions and not just ramble and interject. She certainly can explain her answers. If I may finish, Mr. Render, if I may finish. She may certainly explain her answers, but rambling into what we don't, rambling into extraneous, irrelevant information, that's specifically what I'm objecting to, the extraneous commentary about that doesn't matter to us, et cetera, et cetera.
Your Honor,
it's not responsive to the question that's being asked.
My client is allowed to explain her answers, Your Honor.
At this time, Ms. McNeil, I need you to give a yes or no answer, and then you can explain your yes or no answer. So,
okay.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. But you just advised that you told the officer you didn't want him to go to jail.
Yes, I said that. Yes.
Okay. And why did you tell the officer that? You're on mute, Ms. McNeil.
You want me to explain that or answer yes or no?
If you could answer, could you please answer my question, yes or no? If you have an explanation afterwards, please provide.
Could you ask the question again?
The question that I asked is, you advised the officers that you did not want him to go to jail.
I already answered that, yes.
Okay, and why didn't you?
Why didn't I what?
Why didn't you want him to go to jail?
He was going anyway, because that's what Clayton County do.
Okay.
He was going anyway.
But you specifically advised that in reference to Officer Mustafa responding to a 911 call.
For the third time, yes, I said that.
Right, but my question is in response to Officer Mustafa attempting to get information about the case. That was your response, yes?
That was the second thing I said. So no, that wasn't my initial response.
Okay. So just out of the blue, your response is, I don't want him to go to jail.
I'm going to object to this line of questioning. I believe she's confusing my client. It's very clear that my client what happened and then indicated afterwards that she didn't want to go to jail based off of his conduct that didn't occur. So I believe we're going in circles with this line of questioning. So I'd like to object at this time to badgering the witness.
Your Honor, it's not badgering a witness if she's not being responsive to the questioning. She has to answer the questions that are asked. She doesn't get to not do that. So that is part of the reason why, is because she's being unresponsive to the questioning. Additionally, Ms. McNeil, I don't
answered
believe
the question.
Ms. McNeil, first of all, Mr. Render, I overrule your objection. Ms. McNeil, in regards to the questioning, I understand you can explain it. You gave yes or no. If the question is why, that requires more than a yes or no answer. I think that question Ms. Lewis was asking, the last one was, why didn't you not want him to go to jail? And you said that he was going anyway. So that was the question. You're not giving a clear answer on. If you don't have an answer, you just didn't want him to go to jail, you can say that. But if you don't have a clear answer, that's fine as well. But just state that the answer of he's going anyway because it's Clayton County was what your response was.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. McNeil.
He's already been to jail for me calling the cops on him for past behaviors and domestic. We already had a previous domestic case with each other. That's why I said it.
And that's how you knew to ask your son to call the police?
Yes.
Because you've been here before?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did not want to speak to the police when they arrived this time?
No.
And so that's why the officer asked to speak to Diamond and the other children?
I spoke with the officer. It was just nothing to tell. I didn't want it to escalate. That's why I called.
Okay. The officer asked to speak to Diamond and the other children, correct?
Yes.
And the officer spoke with Diamond? Yes. Officer Mustafa?
Yes.
Okay. Were you present when he spoke with her?
No.
Okay. Now, the bedroom, the door that the officer alleged was damaged in this incident, how did that happen?
It was not damaged in this incident. The door is already broken.
Okay, how is it broken?
The wood, where the hinges are, the wood is like it's shredding away.
Okay, so how did it come off the hinges?
That door never came off the hinges.
Okay.
The hinges wasn't even hanging.
So are there three fasteners where the hinges are on that door?
The door only has two, the top and the bottom. It's a mobile home. It only has two.
Okay.
It has the very top
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I just said it had the one at the top and the one at the bottom.
Okay, and both were intact?
Yes, ma'am.
And so your claim is that the only damage to the door is just some shredding with the wood?
The wood is saggy.
Okay.
If that makes sense, if you know what I mean. Like it's loose, like where the wood is rotting away.
Now, the officers had to separate you and Mr. Bivens, correct?
We were never separated. No. Sorry.
You guys were not separated at any time during this investigation?
No.
And he wasn't arguing with you or yelling at you during this investigation?
No.
Okay. And since this incident, have you communicated with Mr. Bivens?
Yes.
Through jail calls?
Yes.
Okay. And in those jail calls, did you discuss this case?
I don't recall.
Okay. And in between this case, this incident, and you go into IA, did you speak to Diamond about this case?
I'm not sure what you're trying to ask.
Have you and Diamond discussed this case since the arrest?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and did she advise you that you said that Officer Mendez made her falsify a report?
Do I have to answer that yes or no? Because I'm not understanding the way you're asking.
Ms. Lewis, could you rephrase the question so Ms. McNeil can understand it?
Yes. Did Diamond tell you at any point that Officer Mendez made her falsify a written statement?
Yes.
Okay. What about her verbal communication with Officer Mustafa?
Am I to explain that or yes or no that?
Ms. Lewis, on this question, I'm not sure I understand as well. Could you expound about the question was how, I wasn't understanding the question either. Could you clarify that?
Did she provide any commentary about her verbal statement to Officer Mustafa?
Diamond never spoke with Officer Mustafa, not once. She only spoke with Officer Mendez.
Okay. And were you with her the whole time?
Not once.
I'm sorry, you said not once, that meaning you weren't with her the whole time?
No. I answered that already. I'm not allowed to go around Diamond.
Okay, so if you weren't allowed to go around Diamond, how are you aware of whether or not she spoke to Officer Mustafa?
I can now because we live in the same home, but I wasn't allowed to go in my home. He made all the children go in the home. Officer Mustafa made all the children go in the home. I had to stay outside. I wasn't allowed to go inside my own home. He said I couldn't. I said, can I go in? He said no.
Okay, Ms. McNeil, the question is, how do you know your daughter did not speak to Officer Mustafa? Did she tell you this after the fact? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I just don't be knowing when to say yes or no or when to explain because the way she's asking the question.
It's fine. If you need clarification, just let us know. But the yes or no, and then you can explain or you can ask for clarification like you've been doing. Thank you.
Okay.
You advised that Diamond was asleep during most of the argument. At what point did she wake up?
I'll say about 10 minutes before the cops.
Okay. And did you advise her that you had your 16-year-old call the police?
Yes.
When did you advise her of that?
Wait. You say did.
Ma'am, I think you might have.
Could you ask that again?
I said, and
yeah, somebody keep calling me on my phone.
Did you advise her that that you told your 16-year-old son to call the police?
No.
Okay. Never told her that. Okay.
No. Could I explain?
Yes, ma'am.
She heard it when I was telling Mr. Bivens that I just called. That's how she gained knowledge that the cops were on the way.
How do you know what she heard?
We were all outside at that time. All 7 or 8, all 8 of us, we were all outside.
Okay. And so at what point did she wake up after the altercation and then go outside?
I'm sorry.
So at what point
Could you repeat that, please?
At what was the time differential between her waking up and y'all all going outside?
What do you mean?
How much time passed between her waking up and you all going outside?
About 10 minutes before the cops were even called. Then once Travell gave me confirmation that he called the cops, we immediately went outside after I told him that the cops. Sorry, my phone went out again. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Were you done answering that question or did you get cut off?
Did you hear it all? That we all kind of just started walking towards the door at the same time.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Your Honor, I don't have any further questions of Ms. McNeil.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Render, do you have any redirect?
Yeah, just briefly. Ms. McNeil, Ms. Lewis asked about you wanting Mr. Bivens to go to jail. In your statement about that, was this because he did not touch you or break the door?
He did not.
I'm going to object to leading.
Your
Honor, Ms. McNeil, hold on just one second. I've made an objection. The judge has to respond. Sorry.
Oh.
I know you're breaking up. You just may not have heard that. It's okay.
Ms. Lewis, can you please restate your objection? I'm sorry.
Leading.
Okay.
I'll rephrase my question, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Render.
Ms. McNeil, could you clarify for the court why you did not want Mr. Bivens to go to jail?
We've had previous domestic situations before where the cops were involved.
Okay, and I'm saying specifically to the conduct as alleged. Why did you not want him to go to jail?
Because he was already on probation, and he'd just been released from jail.
And to clarify for the court, whether any conduct or contact was made with you offensively, as far as him touching you?
No.
And what about the door? Did he make contact with the door?
No, he didn't.
Are these the reasons why you did not want him to go to jail? Because he did not do the prescribed?
Your Honor, again,
no,
it's leading.
I'm going to sustain your objection, Ms. Lewis. And I think we've asked Ms. McNeil a few times why she did not want Mr. Bivens to go to jail. Unless there's some other way, another question you have, you can proceed with your next question, Mr. Render.
And no further questions, Your Honor. I'm ready for my next witness.
Okay. Ms. Hart, Ms. Lewis, did you have any read cross of Ms. McNeil?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Render, in regards to the next witness, you said it was the daughter, Miss Diamond?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is she...
I'll ask for Miss Diamond to be placed in the room because they were sequestered. So I'm going to ask for Miss Diamond to take the place of Miss McNeil.
Okay.
Ms. Diamond, can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Diamond.
How do you know Mr. Xavier Bivens?
That's my boyfriend.
How long have you known Mr. Bivens?
Mr. Renner, can you have Miss Diamond McNeil to speak up? I can't hear her, and I don't know if she's moving around or what's going on, but if she could sit still so we can.
I can't hear nothing.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Ms. McNeil?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, how long have you known Mr. Bivens?
We also need the camera on Miss Diamond McNeil. Can you please turn your camera?
About a year.
Okay.
Miss Diamond, can you please, we can't see you. It's like the top of your head we're looking at. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. McNeil. On the day in question, where were you?
Day in question.
On the incident date?
What you? I was there. I know you.
Where were you?
I can't hear you. It's breaking up.
Where were you in the home?
I was in the house. I was in the living room.
Okay. And did you witness Mr. Bivens put his hands on your mother?
No, I didn't.
Did you witness Mr. Bivens break a door in the home?
No.
Did you observe any physical harm dished out by Mr. Bivens?
No.
Okay. Did you write a statement on scene?
No, I did not.
Were you told to sign a statement on scene?
Yes.
And so what did you sign?
He just told me to sign the bottom line and put the date.
Okay. And on that piece of paper that he told you to sign the bottom line, put the date, was there already work written by a family member or anybody else?
Yes.
Okay. So for clarification, you did not write that statement that you signed?
No.
Okay. All right. At the time when you were in the home being questioned, what did the officers tell you?
What he told me. Tell me about the statement.
Just in general, what did they tell you during the investigation?
Now he just kept asking what happened. Did we see him hit her? Did he push her face? Did he choke her? Then he asked how old I was and could I write the statement. Then he went outside, got the paper. I was really
Okay.
He didn't say nothing.
Okay. And the next day, did you write a internal affairs statement as well?
Yes.
And what did you say in that statement to internal affairs?
How I didn't write the statement. That he told me, he kept telling me to write the statement. And he had me to sign something that I really didn't know I was signing because I didn't read it. Then he said, and that's about it. When I wrote what happened, what really happened.
You wrote what really happened in the statement to internal affairs.
Yes.
And what did you say in that statement?
That they was just arguing. That nobody never hit Shane Lewis.
No further questions for the witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Ms. Lewis, you may proceed with your cross.
Yes. Good morning, Diamond.
Good morning.
Now, Mr. Render asked you, I think he referred to it as the day in question, and we clarified it was the day the police came out. And you advised you were in the living room. What were you in the living room doing?
Sitting on the floor with the rest of my cousins. I was asleep at first. I had got up after hearing all that. I got up and went and sat on the living room floor.
You said you got up after hearing all that?
All the arguing, screaming, yes.
So pretty loud? The arguing and screaming was pretty loud?
Yes.
So much that it woke you up? Can't hear you, ma'am.
Yes, I answered. Twice.
And how did you learn that the police were called?
What you asked?
How did you learn that the police were called?
My auntie kept saying it. She kept saying they on the way. I knew.
Okay. And she told you that directly?
No, she was talking to him. She just kept saying that they're on the way.
Okay. And
so he could calm down.
Okay. And when you're looking off to the side, where are you looking?
In the sky.
Okay.
Just looking.
Okay. And there's no one else there with you?
No.
Okay. Do you recall speaking with Officer Mustafa?
No, I didn't speak to him. He was outside the whole time. I did not speak to him. He didn't say not one word to me. I didn't say not one word to him. Only thing he said was go in the house. We went in the house. He started out my auntie them.
Okay. And are you aware that he was wearing a body camera of this incident?
He's like, what? You said what now?
Were you aware that he was wearing a body camera?
Miss Diamond McNeil.
Yes.
I don't know if something's going on with your connection or whatnot, but we can't see or hear you very clearly if you went out.
Hear me. I can't hear nothing.
Miss Diamond McNeil, can you say something? It's unclear and we can't hear you very well.
Yeah, y'all now. I couldn't hear y'all first.
Okay, you can hear us now? Can you hear her, Miss Lewis, Mr. Render?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
I asked, were you aware of whether he was wearing a body camera? Officer Mustafa.
Yeah.
You were aware that he was wearing a body camera?
Yes, he's a police, of course.
Okay. And so it's your testimony today under oath that you never spoke to Officer Mustafa?
I never spoke to him.
Okay. And you understand that you're under oath?
Do I what?
Do you understand that you're under oath?
Yeah.
Do you understand what that means?
I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what that means.
Ma'am?
I don't know what that means.
Okay. Are you aware that when you're under oath, that means that you're swearing to tell the truth?
I never spoke. How did I speak to him when he was outside with my auntie the whole time? They made us go in the house. I was in the house with the only police we talked
Miss
to was
McNeil, Miss McNeil, I want a yes or no answer, and then you can explain it. But
Your Honor, I want to
I said yes or no.
I'm going to object. It was clear that Ms. McNeil spoke to Officer Mendez and not the other Officer Mustafa. So I'm going to object to this line of questioning. She's already answered that she spoke to Officer Mendez and not Officer Mustafa, and who also stated on his direct that he did not speak with Ms. McNeil.
No, that's not what Officer Mustafa testified to on direct. He testified that he spoke with her and that her statement's on body camera. Additionally, that's what we're here to determine, whether or not she spoke to her, and I'm entitled to a thorough and sifting cross-examination to the facts, specifically as it pertains to her competency as a witness. It is relevant to ascertain whether or not she understands perjury and what being under oath is, as she just took one before the court.
My client doesn't indicate she spoke to Mr. Mendez and not Mr. Mustafa.
Okay, but my question was about oath taking, and that's relevant to her competency as a witness, whether or not she understands the oath.
All right, I understand your objection, Mr. Render. You ready to move forward? Ms. Lewis, I understand you're going to ask questions. I want to make sure Ms. McNeil gives us a clear yes or no. I don't want to hear yeah. I don't want to hear nah. And I just need you to give me a clear yes or no answer and then explain. And just so you can understand what being under oath is, Ms. McNeil, is that if you're testifying that you're giving the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury. Perjury means that if you're found to be lying, that you could go to jail. And that's what under oath testimony means. So at this time, please answer Ms. Lewis's questions, yes or no, and then we can move forward as quick, in this briefly and quickly as possible. Go for it, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you. I'm just waiting on her response, and it appears we can't quite see.
Ms. McNeil, again, can we?
No, Ms. Lewis, I never talked to them. Whoever you said, I never talked to him. I only talked to Mendez, the Hispanic.
Gotcha. I just wanted a yes or no. Did you understand what the judge just advised about perjury and under oath?
Yes.
Okay. So you never talked to anyone and told, let's say, Officer Mendez about there being an argument about Facebook?
I did tell him. I did, yes.
And how did you know they were arguing about Facebook?
Because she told me.
Who is she?
My auntie told me. Sabrina told me.
When did she tell you this?
I really kind of assumed it was about Facebook because she said she was going to ask him about it when she picked him up from work.
Okay, but what did she tell you?
She didn't tell me.
Okay, so when you just said she told you it was about Facebook, that wasn't truthful.
No, I really assumed it.
Ms. McNeil, can you please explain to me again I'm sorry if this has been asked, Mr. Render, but I wasn't clear. I thought Ms. Diamond McNeil was Sabrina's mother. Ms. Diamond McNeil, is Sabrina your aunt or your mother?
She's my auntie.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed with your questions, Ms. Lewis. My apologies for interrupting.
Okay, and so did you all have any conversation between the time that you woke up, you and Miss McNeil, about the incident before the police got there?
Oh, not that I remember.
And so you never told officers that the Mr. Bivens pushed Miss McNeil?
No,
Okay, and it's your testimony that you did not see that happen.
I did not see that happen.
And after that day, have you had any conversation with your aunt, Miss McNeil, about this case?
I have.
Okay, how often, or how many times have y'all spoken about it?
I 2 or 3 times. I don't know.
Okay, and did y'all talk about it before you went to internal affairs?
No.
So you've only spoken about it since you went to internal affairs?
Yes. I don't even know. I don't remember.
Okay. And no one's told you what to say here today?
No.
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions of this witness.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Render, do you have any redirect for Ms. Diamond McNeil?
Further questions, Your Honor, just closing.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to put Miss Sabrina and Diamond on mute. They can stay to hear the rest of the hearing. At this time, Ms. Lewis, we can proceed with closing. You can,
I'm going to just reserve rebuttal, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Render?
Yes, Your Honor. We're here for battery, family violence, and criminal trespass, whereby it's alleged that Mr. Bivens damaged the door. We've heard direct evidence from Ms. Diamond McNeil and Ms. Sabrina McNeil that the door was already damaged. We've heard direct evidence from Officer Mustafa, who did not do a thorough or sifting investigation and did not determine whether or not the broken door was indicative of the status of the house or was a result of an incident that occurred violently. He made it clear that he did not look at any of the doors and did not thoroughly look and see if it was broken that way. Furthermore, we've heard no testimony that Mr. Bivens actually broke the door. We've heard no testimony that Mr. Bivens actually made contact with Ms. McNeil. We've heard direct evidence from witnesses who were on scene who indicated that this did not occur. We've also heard testimony that the alleged witnesses were coerced into writing a statement that was fraudulent. And this could be cross-referenced by Ms. McNeil's handwriting and the handwriting of the 16-year-old male. So whatever direct evidence we do have is fraudulent, Your Honor, as far as the statement goes. It's alleged that Mr. Bivens pushed Ms. McNeil. That's the sole count for the battery. We're not here for an arrest for argument, for screaming, for heated exchange, Your Honor. If that was the case, a lot of individuals would get arrested for an argument. It did come out that there was prior difficulties in the past, and that was one of the reasons why Mrs. McNeil was apt to call the police, because Mr. Bivens does have mental health issues, and she wanted to escalate the situation before it gets there, which is what happened, Your Honor. This situation was de-escalated. But unfortunately, what occurred was a re-escalation by the officers who, again, took fraudulent statements, coerced the witnesses, who are currently have internal affairs statements wrote against them based off of the investigation. Your Honor, I don't believe there's any probable cause for criminal trespass at the door, as we've heard direct testimony from Mr. Mustafa himself that he did not do a thorough investigation at the door. He did not look at any other doors to determine whether or not this was correlated with the home or this was a one-off. There was no offensive touching of Ms. McNeil. We've heard direct evidence from Ms. McNeil. She's had situations in the past, so she understands being honest. There's no corroboration of any physical touching by Ms. Diamond or Ms. Sabrina McNeil. The only corroboration we have is from a fraudulent report that was taken from the officers. Again, we're not here for screaming and arguing, heated exchange, Your Honor. That's not the gist of why we're here. We're here to determine whether there's probable cause for battery, family violence, and probable cause for criminal trespass. I do not believe, based on the evidence, that this case meets the threshold. We've heard direct evidence from the victims, Your Honor. From my understanding, the state has not spoken at all with the victims or have come into any determination of what happened. So this, well, I believe, will be the first time that they heard the story. I do not believe that this rises to the level of probable cause. We have falsified statements, we have no injuries, and we have no contact. At this time, Your Honor, we asked the court to find no probable cause for the criminal trespass to the door and the battery family violence against Ms. McNeil based on the direct evidence and direct testimony from Officer Mustafa, Mr. Brendan McNeil, and Ms. Diamond McNeil. There's nothing here to corroborate anything further. I do believe that this is a situation that got out of hand. I do believe that because of his history, the officers wanted to make something happen, wanted to make an arrest. And I think that's what happened. I think once the 911 phone call was commenced, an arrest was promulgated. Whether or not Mr. Bivens had done anything to make that come forward. So, Your Honor, again, we're asking that Mr. Bivens be released on the two criminal warrants of criminal trespass and battery family violence based on the fact that there's no direct evidence and no probable cause for such. And the only direct evidence that we have is from a fraudulent report directly testified to by Ms. Diamond McNeil. Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Render. Ms. Lewis may proceed with your closing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I certainly think the thing that Mr. Render and I agree on is we're not here based on an argument. We're here because the officer heard evidence on the day in question about a simple battery, a pushing that evolved from an argument that happened in regards to Facebook and a damaged door. Mr. Render made several, I guess, extrapolations or speculations about why that the officers just wanted to get something. In keeping with evidence, no evidence of that was presented. What was presented was that Officer Mustafa responded in reference to a call. I find this call interesting because while it may seem like a minor detail, I think it speaks to some of the credibility issues of what we've heard from both Diamond and Ms. McNeil today, because the officer advised that he was told that one of the children called 911. Ms. McNeil says she didn't talk to the officers. She says that Diamond knew.
On closing, but I'm going to object. She did not say she didn't talk to the officers. She did admit she talked to Officer Mendez. So I just want to put that objection out there. She did not say she did not talk to the officers. She indicated who she spoke to and who she did not speak to.
Actually, Ms. McNeil said that she never spoke to Mendez because he was in the house with the children, and she was never allowed inside the house with the children. So that's not what the testimony was. She advised she didn't speak to the officers. In fact, I asked several times, and she was very curt and very quick to tell me that she had answered that question several times. So she made it clear, based on her testimony, she didn't speak to the officers. Yeah, the officers knew information that she had. So I find that interesting because then Diamond comes and says or attempts to offer that, yeah, she told me about it. And then when I further questioned about it, had to switch up. Oh, well, I just assumed. So it goes from my aunt talked to me about it, and that's how I learned, to now I assumed. And that's because she got caught. She got caught in a lie.
No, I wasn't lying.
And so, and that's the thing, when people lie, is they don't always pay attention to those details. They haven't thought through how those details are going to come out. So, and then I asked her, I said, so when you just said that your aunt told you that wasn't truthful. And she said it wasn't. So she's herself on cross-examination said it was a lie. So that she was impeached with a lie already renders her credibility in question, particularly when it's clear that Ms. McNeil did not want the children to have communication with the officers. So we already have a situation where they're not wanting to respond to the officers. The officer, Mustafa, testified that he himself spoke with Diamond and that, in fact, he reviewed his body cam to be clear about the conversation that was had. Diamond maintains she never talked to him. That she says that Miss McNeil was pushed, that this was over Facebook, and that there was some pointing or getting in the face. Also advised that the defendant kicked the bedroom door open. Just so happens that that's the bedroom door that the officer observes off the hinges. Now, according to Miss McNeil, it's not off the hinges. It's just, soggy wood, I think she said. Now, if the officer, as Mr. Render put it, is just trying to get something, I mean, he could establish criminal trespass without saying it's off the hinges. He could just describe the very damage that Ms. McNeil described. He wouldn't need to fabricate information about it being off the hinges. He could describe the door in the same state that Ms. McNeil did, and that would be sufficient probable cause. So that he described it off the hinges is based off of what Diamond told him happened on the incident date. And Mr. Render makes much ado about the fact that Officer Mustafa didn't go and look at every door in the house to determine the state of all the doors. Why would he do that when he's told that specific door was kicked off the hinges and he has observed the door off? I mean, she didn't say it was kicked off the hinges, that it was kicked in, and he observed it in a state of disrepair with the hinges hanging. That doesn't make sense. That he didn't go check all doors in the house when that's the only door that he was spoken to about in the investigation doesn't render the investigation useless. So he used that information. He said that he did get a statement from the juvenile, a written statement from the other officer, and that he told the officer that they can't use that statement because Miss McNeil had already said she didn't want the children spoken to. So I doubt that if Officer Mustafa, who testified to that today, advised Officer Mendez that he's just trying to get the defendant, because he opted not to use a statement only because Ms. McNeil requested that the children not be spoken to. I recognize that there's some allegations that there have been some subsequent recantations. Whether or not those recantations are what truly happened are the result of subsequent conversations between Ms. McNeil and Diamond. We don't know. We do know that there's been communication between the defendant and Ms. McNeil. She advised she couldn't recall whether they've discussed the case. That will be for the state to investigate. But at any rate, it's clear there's been a lot of communication between the parties that testified, at least 3 times that Diamond admitted to. And then when I asked her, well, was it prior to or after you went to IA? At first she said it wasn't prior to. Then she goes, well, I don't know. Because again, you haven't thought through the details of the story. And so I submit to the court that at least appears from the state's perspective that it sounds like, based on Officer Mustafa's testimony, that she turned to the defendant and said, if I tell what happened, you would go to jail. And certainly she was fearful enough, and maybe that's from the prior incidents, that she felt compelled to call the police. And so the police didn't do anything wrong by responding and investigating what happened. If there is wrongdoing uncovered by IA and that's proven, certainly that would affect the state's case. And certainly we would not use tainted evidence. But just in observing Ms. McNeil and Diamond's demeanor, behavior during the questioning, and the inconsistencies, it appears that there is an extreme credibility issue with respect to them, and particularly as it pertains to this newfound recantation. And so we know that the judge has conflicting evidence. Certainly,
because Ms. Audrey keeps saying recantation, and that's not what was proffered, and that's not what was stated. It was not a recant.
Mr. Render, I can argue that it's a recantation when the officer says she gave a different statement. That you disagree with it doesn't change the testimony. So it is a recantation. If a statement is given to a officer and we have Officer Mustafa saying, this is what was told to me happened, and then there's a subsequent story that says that didn't happen, that would be textbook definition recantation. And so that would be the evidence. And I can argue, Mr. Render, and I can argue, just like you argued and presupposed what the officer's motives were, I can extrapolate from the testimony that is a recantation. And the judge can make the determination whether or not she thinks it is or isn't.
All right, Mr. Render, I'm going to overrule objection, and please, Ms. Lewis, continue with your closing at this time.
Thank you. And so certainly as the court has multiple witnesses that have testified today, of course, the court has to make the determination of probable cause. And I certainly understand that, there's conflicts, but even in a jury trial, conflicts of evidence are enough to send it to a jury. And we are far below the threshold, as every criminal defense attorney points out, of reasonable doubt where we would be before a jury. And so to the issue of probable cause, at this point, the state would submit that we've met that burden, both with respect to the simple battery family violence, because there was testimony that there was a push, that they lived together at the time because the eviction was not complete, and also that the door was damaged when the defendant kicked in the door and the officer observed said damage.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lewis. This time I am going to make my ruling, and is this based on the testimonial evidence? I do find that there is probable cause to bind this matter over to the State Court of Clayton County for further prosecution. Thank you, all the parties, for testifying today, and